If we haven't met yet, I'm Sam, the real estate broker turned 3D printing entrepreneur. I run a 6-figure print farm and I'm a top 1% Etsy seller, and I do it all from underneath my garage. If you're like me with no photography background, it can be frustrating to get the right product photos. You probably know enough to know your photos could be better, but not enough to actually know how to make them better, and that can be a frustrating spot to be in. Today, I'm going to cover my product photography setup and the 5 secrets that took me 4 years of taking pictures and YouTube watching to figure out. So if you're in that sticky spot where you know your product photos should be better, but also don't want to watch the 3-hour camera and editing tutorial, I got you covered. And if you stick with me to the end, I'll show you the biggest mistake I've made with my product photos that cost me tens of thousands of dollars. I get questions all the time asking, how do I get more sales? I've done a bunch of videos on this topic, so if you haven't watched any of those yet, make sure to check them out after this video. No surprise, but one of the most important factors in getting sales are pictures. In a study done by Deep Image, they found that 87% of consumers consider product photos crucial when making a purchasing decision. And Business DIT found that high quality photos can boost your conversion rate by 94% compared to listings with low quality photos. Pictures are worth 1,000 words, right? Couldn't be more true when selling products online. Most buyers look at pictures, very few will read any of your description, and fewer yet will read your whole description. Photos provide you an opportunity to set buyer expectation. Business DIT found that 22% of product returns are due to the product looking different in the photos than in person. Accurate and high quality photos allow you to set the buyer expectation, reducing return rate and increasing buyer confidence. A big thanks to the sponsor of today's video, FlexiSpot. They sent me out one of their premium standing desks, the E7 Plus. The E7 Plus is a 4-legged design providing rock solid stability and can support up to 540 pounds. I went with the 72-inch by 30-inch bamboo top, which looks great in photos. In fact, it's become my main desktop where I take nearly all my product photos. The size provides a bunch of space, allowing me to keep anything I'm not taking pictures of out of the frame, but still close by. And the dual motors has no problem moving the desk up or down, and having the ability to move the desk is actually much more convenient than moving my camera. With a touch of the button, I can get my product set to the perfect height for the best angle. One of my favorite things is the clamp power strip with USB charging. No more running extension cords all over the floor. Being able to keep your light and your camera plugged in and not worrying about battery going dead has been amazing. I definitely fancy myself a bit of an office tech and furniture nerd, and I've tried many different desks over the years. In a time where we are seeing other desks pushing that $1,000 price point, it's refreshing to see a company making a quality product at a reasonable price point with product options to fit different budgets. FlexiSpot desks are genuinely well built, and they back that up. They have a 15-year warranty on all their E7 frames and electronics, as well as a 5-year warranty on the bamboo top. So whether you need a new desk or a studio desk or a better workbench, make sure to check out all the FlexiSpot options at the link below. Something I learned when starting to sell is that the biggest hurdle I ran into in getting new listings published was actually taking the pictures. After months of struggling, what I realized was every time I was looking to take product photos, I was starting over with my complete photography setup. I would just pick a random spot in my house that day and start taking photos. That meant that every time I picked a new spot, I had to figure out what angle looked best, what kind of natural lighting I was getting from whatever window was close by, and what kind of artificial light I needed to subsidize the natural light. It was a huge time suck and was a huge demotivator to getting new photos taken, which meant it limited the amount of new products I was listing, which meant it limited the amount of sales potential I was earning. I now take all my photos in the same spot, which means I know exactly what my lighting is going to be, and I know how my camera needs to be set up. This completely removes the friction point, and now when I have new products, I walk over and I take some pictures. This is a huge reason why I went from 50 listings just a year ago to now over 150 active listings. When things are hard, we don't do them. And with pictures being such a huge part of the sale, it's important to make it as easy as possible. I've found having a dedicated space helps with just that. Lighting was the single biggest impact on my photography quality. I've always heard that lighting was important. It wasn't until recently when I figured out how to actually get good lighting. For a long time, I just used these LED lights I got off of Amazon. What I didn't understand when starting out was color temperature versus light power. I thought that if the light said it could do 5600K, that the light would look the same whether coming from this $45 light or a $300 studio light. Which, yes, I know begs the question, then why is one light 45 and another is 300? Fair question, and I just didn't ask myself that at the time. While the light color was the same, the light intensity or power was not. This may seem simple, but for those of us coming with no photography background, what I learned is that when purchasing lights, you're paying for power. This $45 light puts out 20 watts of power, while this light from GVM puts out 200 watts of power. So while the color of the light will be the same, this GVM light will be 10 times brighter than this panel light. When this light bulb went off for me, get it? Light bulb? Everything started to make sense to me and explain so many of the things I was struggling with. Which takes us to our next tip, light diffusion. When I was using these small panel lights, because of the low power, I had to put them super close to my products, which meant it put these little bright spots all over my products in my pictures. This is an example of knowing enough to know that doesn't look good, but not knowing enough to know how to make it look better. The answer was first a more powerful light, but then diffusing that light. So to go along with the GVM light, I got this softbox from Newer. Bonus tip for you, the way softboxes connect to your studio light is by using a Bowens mount. This is an industry standard, so you can mix and match lights and softboxes. Just saved you an hour of Googling. You're welcome. The softbox not only helps direct the light, but this particular one has 2 layers of diffusion, which completely removes any of those bright spots I was struggling with when using the cheap light. Now you could diffuse the light on these cheap panel lights, and I did that for about a year with these little umbrellas. The problem you run into is that the light starts off not very powerful, so then you diffuse it and it gets less powerful. The only real fix is then using your camera settings to increase the ISO to a point where your picture starts to look grainy. Cameras are a topic you could spend hours researching, and I've done my fair share of endless YouTube videos on the topic. However, we aren't getting into the weeds of that. What I can say though is if you do the lights and the diffusion properly, the camera selection becomes much less relevant. You can use your smartphone and you'll be just fine. I now use a DSLR camera, but it's nothing crazy. I picked up the ZV-E10, which came with the lens and was like 700 bucks when I purchased it. It's also the camera I use for these YouTube videos, which is actually the reason I purchased it. Since I have it, I do use it for product photos. However, if I wasn't making YouTube videos, I would more than likely still be using my iPhone for my product photos. Editing is another topic you could spend a lifetime learning. If you go down that rabbit hole, there are a bunch of good videos that will really get into the weeds with editing. The problem is these videos are made by professionals for professionals or aspiring professional photographers. We're neither of those things. We are business owners who are forced to learn a little bit about a bunch of topics. My best tip, spend the 14 bucks a month on a Canva premium membership and use their built-in photo editor. You click one button and 9 times out of 10, it looks great. What products you sell, what your company stands for, what its mission is, these are all things you should overthink as a business. However, photo editing is not one of those things. Save yourself the brain power, reduce the burden with one less thing to learn, and focus on making more products and getting more listings. That'll serve you way more than mastering photo editing. Now that we are enlightened about product photos, as promised, let's talk mistakes. The biggest mistake I made around product photography was not taking listing pictures that aligned with the platform I was selling on. Early on in my Etsy shop, I gained some traction with some best sellers. I decided I was going to invest in the shop, and I got a light box, a waste. I signed up for Photoshop, a waste. And I was going to make the classic white background photos. You know, really show that we are professionals. So I did it, and they looked just like professional product photos you'd see on Amazon. Maybe you know where I'm going with this. The problem was I wasn't selling on Amazon. I was selling on Etsy, and Etsy buyers don't want stale product photos. They want the story of the product. They want to be buying something unique. They want to see the product in its natural environment. Within a couple of weeks, all those best sellers were no longer best sellers. When I realized what I had done by changing the pictures, I changed them back, but the damage was already done. Those listings never recovered. I was making about $1,400 a month on those listings, and they all went to nearly zero. Considering this was 4 years ago, this mistake potentially has cost me $67,000 and counting. Oof, that hurts. So yeah, know where you are selling. Make sure your listing photo style aligns with the platform you're selling on. Q4 is fast approaching, and it is the best opportunity we e-commerce sellers have, and it will often either make or break our year. If you want to capitalize on the opportunity, make sure to check out this video on how we made $10,000 in 1 month from just one product. I'll see you over there.